My name is Alina. I'm 23 years old, living far from home, trying to build a life in New York City. That night was supposed to be ordinary, just another late shift ending, just another taxi ride back to my apartment. But what happened instead changed everything. It was raining heavily, and no rideshare was available. A yellow cab pulled up, and the driver, a man in his late 30s with intense eyes and a deep voice, offered me a ride. I hesitated, but the storm was getting worse. I agreed. We talked during the ride. At first, he was friendly, too friendly. He complimented my smile, asked if I had a boyfriend, and said I had sad eyes that needed love. I brushed it off politely. But when we got near my building, he said his car was acting strange and needed to stop. Then he suggested we wait out the storm at a nearby hotel. I should have refused. But I was tired, wet, and a little scared. He drove us to the Plaza Hotel, a place so beautiful, I almost forgot my unease. At the check-in desk, he said the hotel was full except for one suite. One room. I froze. But he convinced me. Just for a few hours, he said. You'll be safe. I'll sleep on the couch. Inside the room, he acted kind, offering me tea, asking about my dreams, playing soft music. Slowly, his words turned more romantic. He sat too close, his hand brushing mine. He told me I was special, that fate had brought us together. Then it changed. He leaned in and tried to kiss me. I pulled back. He laughed softly and whispered, "Don't pretend you don't feel it too." I told him no, firmly. But he kept trying. He held me too tightly, tried to hug me. My heart pounded. I pushed him away, ran to the bathroom, and locked the door. I stayed there all night, afraid and furious. In the morning, I came out ready to leave. He was sitting on the bed, looking guilty, saying he was sorry, that he got carried away. I left without a word. That night haunts me, not just for what almost happened, but for how close I came to being used, manipulated by sweet words and fake affection. It taught me something important. Not all danger comes in the form of violence. Sometimes it wears a kind smile, drives a taxi, and offers you warmth just to take advantage. I left the Plaza Hotel with my heart pounding and my hands shaking. The sunlight outside felt too bright after the darkness of that night. I walked straight to the nearest cafe, ordered a coffee I couldn't drink, and sat in a corner, trying to calm my racing thoughts. How did I let it get that far? I kept blaming myself. But deep down I knew he was the one who crossed the line. I decided not to stay silent. I pulled out my phone and began typing everything, every word he said, every move he made, every feeling I had. I posted it anonymously on a women's safety forum and in a private Facebook group for young women in NYC. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of women replied. Some had been in similar situations with drivers, coworkers, even so-called friends. And then something chilling happened. A girl messaged me privately. Was his name Zane? Tall, deep voice, always talks like he's falling in love. My blood ran cold. She'd had a similar experience. So had two others. We had a pattern. Over the next week, we formed a small group. We compared notes, dates, descriptions, hotel receipts. One girl even had a voice recording of him talking sweet and then turning aggressive. That was our turning point. I gathered everything and went to the police. This time, I wasn't just a girl with a story. I had evidence, names, and support. They took it seriously. Turns out, Zane had been reported before, but no one followed up. This time we pushed. Media got involved. A local journalist ran a feature called Behind the Wheel, When Taxi Drivers Cross the Line. My story was anonymous, but it struck a nerve. 2 weeks later, Zane was arrested. They found messages, photos, and records that proved he'd done this more than once. He was charged with attempted assault, harassment, and impersonating a licensed driver because his real license had been suspended years ago. The relief I felt wasn't just about him being caught. It was about knowing I wasn't alone, and that speaking up mattered. Now, I'm working with a nonprofit that protects women in vulnerable situations, especially late-night workers like me. That night at the plaza didn't break me. It lit a fire inside me. He tried to use romance and lies to trap me. But in the end, his charm became his weapon, and his downfall. And me? I turned my fear into power. And I'm never going silent again. Zayn was behind bars. The trial made headlines in local news, and I testified, face uncovered, voice steady. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. But when I walked out of that courtroom, I didn't feel like a victim anymore. I felt free. Life started to settle. I moved into a better apartment, changed my night job to a flexible day shift, and started volunteering with the very group that helped bring him down. Every time I spoke to another scared girl, I felt a piece of my power return. But love? Romance? I'd locked that door shut. I didn't trust easily anymore, and I was okay with that. Then I met Eli. It wasn't dramatic. He wasn't flashy. Just a quiet guy who came to our community center to fix computers for free. He was calm, respectful, and never once tried to flirt. He asked about my story like it mattered, like I mattered, not just what happened to me. He didn't rush me, didn't try to save me. He just listened. One rainy afternoon, we ended up stuck inside the center during a power cut. We talked for hours about childhood, music, dreams we once had. I told him about the plaza, about Zayn, and about the fear I still sometimes felt walking alone. He didn't say I'm sorry like others had. He said, "You were never weak. You were just alone. Now you're not." That was the moment something shifted. We started spending time together, slowly, carefully. No pressure. Just long walks, laughter over coffee, books shared like secrets. He became a quiet, steady presence in my life. And for the first time, love didn't feel like a trap. It felt like a choice I could make on my own terms. 1 year later, I stood outside the Plaza Hotel, not as a frightened girl, but as a woman ready to speak. The nonprofit I worked with had organized a citywide campaign called Trust Me, Not Him, a program designed to protect women using rideshares and cabs. I was the closing speaker. I looked up at the grand building and smiled, not because it held pain, but because it no longer had power over me. "I'm Alina," I said into the mic, voice strong. "A year ago, I came here terrified. Tonight, I leave empowered." The crowd applauded, and in the back, Eli stood quietly, waiting. Not to rescue me, not to fix me, just to walk beside me.